Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark, and today we are joined by Ayla den Hartog to explore how to stop the constant cycle of running in circles by understanding your natural wiring and building a business that actually coexists with motherhood. Ayla is the founder of the Female Entrepreneurs Network, host of the Not That Kind of CEO podcast, and a coach for mompreneurs who feel like they are constantly running in circles. She works with women who feel scattered and stretched thin, helping them realize that their struggle isn't a time management problem, but a result of building a business that fights their natural wiring. By helping women understand their unique pattern and energy, Ayla empowers them to ditch strategies that were never meant for them. Running her business from a 500-year-old château in France, while raising two daughters, she proves that motherhood and entrepreneurship can coexist when you stop fighting yourself and start building from who you really are. Hello, Ayla. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Heather. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm actually, okay, so listeners, if you have not gone, I did a guest podcast episode on Ayla's podcast, so that will be in the show notes as well, a link to that. And I just wanted to continue this conversation with Ayla because we had so much to talk about on her podcast that I'm like, no, that we know that this is going to happen again. So Ayla, thank you so much for joining me. And can you let my listeners know, how did you exactly get into the online space, becoming an entrepreneur? Were you like 4 or 5 years old? I say this in every podcast. Were you 4 or 5 years old, and you just one day said, "You know what, Mom and Dad, I want to be a podcast person. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to help these women."
Exactly. Let me just dial into the internet and become an online entrepreneur.
Exactly. Our kids probably say that now because they can, because they're so used to us doing it. However, we did not grow up in the same era.
Exactly. Yeah. And my kid, actually, one of my kids, I have 2 kids. They're 6 and 3. And the one who's 6, Juliet, we recently asked her what she would do if she were to win the lottery. And she retired her dad and let me make podcasts.
That is awesome.
So she was like, "Dad, you can just go buy cars." Yeah. She's like, "Dad, you can just go buy some cars and repair them because that's what you like to do. And then, Mom, you can record like 2 podcasts a day." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool, honey. Thank you." So no, I grew up in the 90s as well. So I did not set out to become a digital entrepreneur at all. I did not set out to be an entrepreneur, period. Like that was one of the things where I saw people around me, the kids with the lemonade stands, and they just go, I was born to be an entrepreneur. And my entire younger life, I really thought I was not, like, I have had the actual thought, like, I'm never going to be an entrepreneur. I'm just not an entrepreneur. That's how I started my career. I thought I was going to be in hotel management. I studied at Hotel School The Hague and really started out my career with the intention of one day becoming a hotel manager. And I realized while climbing the corporate hospitality ladder, the hospitality corporate ladder, I was climbing a ladder. Either way,
I was climbing some ladder. I was building it as I climbed it. I don't know.
Exactly. And I realized I needed to become more commercial. So I switched to doing phone sales where I had to sell advertisements. It was horrible. I was super,
I don't know how you did that. I don't know how people do that.
No, me either. Like, I did it and I still don't know how people do it. It sucked. I sucked at it. I did not last long. And then I got asked by a friend from hotel school who was working in a younger recruitment agency. When I got in, I was the 9th person to enter the organization. And I started there in a role where I was supporting the 2 directors, the 2 owners in growing the business. And I built up the entire back office of the company. And when I left 5 years later, I think 5 years? Yeah. We had grown to 250 people in Holland and 2 locations abroad as well. And like I helped them grow that. I was in a role where I was supporting them as entrepreneurs. And I really liked that. I really liked helping them grow their business like that and see what chances there are, what pitfalls there are, and where your expectations are. And then people come in and completely ruin those expectations. And most of all, where they were ruining their own expectations, that was the most interesting part to me. And from there on out, I started for myself, eventually became an entrepreneur myself, mostly just because I ended things there in a massive burnout. Like I had overworked myself for so long, for so hard that I was done.
You're like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do this. Yeah. We're so not doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried to start working again in another company. And it was a small company again, it's kind of the same situation, like 2 owners, and I was there to help them grow it. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there working one day, and one of them was sitting next to me, and she was yapping in my ear. Like that's how I still vividly remember it. I was just sitting there trying to mind my business, trying to work the best that I could. And she was just sitting there next to me, just going, wah, 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 wah. She was going on about her kids. And back then I didn't have kids yet. And I was just sitting there thinking, I can't do this anymore. I cannot listen to another coworker yap in the time that I'm trying to be focused, and I don't want to do this anymore. And then I started for myself, basically helping entrepreneurs grow their business, like what I had done in these years before, but from the comfort of my own home. And that's what I'm still doing to this day. So that's a good decade, a little bit over a decade now.
So with that, as you were saying, this is something you now help other entrepreneurs. I know because obviously we talk and stuff. You have a specific niche in the sense of you help moms with little ones, correct?
Yep. Okay. Female entrepreneurs with little children.
There you go. So as somebody who no longer has the littles, but I remember coming into the space as they were littler. I think so. I was coming into the space around 2015 because I just was like, I want to bring something online. I heard about this podcast, and go figure, it was a podcast that brought me online. But with that, my kids were little, and one of the biggest things that I think with mom entrepreneurs is the mom guilt. Have you seen that a lot with your clients and with whether they're even your clients or just people you've talked to? The mom guilt of, I have to do everything for my children, but I also want to do this business, but I also want to do this, but I also need to be a partner or a wife or whatever. Do you find that just becomes like so overwhelming? Like you said, you got burnt out in the corporate side of things. Does that lead to burnout in the entrepreneur side for mompreneurs especially?
I think it can absolutely lead to mom guilt and burnout. I myself, because as you said, I have little kids myself as well. I don't necessarily experience the guilt as much as just the split. It's like can I swear on your podcast?
Of course you can. It's explicit, so you're good.
Figures. I was gonna say, I feel like a fucking circus artist most of the days, because you're like literally balancing on a tightrope, doing some acrobatic maneuver, balancing the spinning plates. That's how my audience feels. Like you're trying to do it all at once. And that can absolutely lead to mom guilt, because it's physically impossible to be everywhere at once. And if you're not at peace with that, and you don't have the right systems and the right mindset to manage it, it's gonna drag you down, because then you'll be working while you're thinking like, I wish I was present with my kids right now. And then the mindfuck is that when you're present with your kids, you're usually conjuring up business ideas like, oh, that's great, brain, thank you for this, but I'm now reading a nighttime story, so not right
You're
now.
like, thanks. I don't need to know that the princess and the dragon or whatever just gave me a new business idea for for a program or something.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But isn't that's like the wonderful curse for the most entrepreneurs I know, is that it's the possibilities are everywhere. So it comes when you're reading a bedtime story and you're like, oh, this is an interesting business concept. No, it isn't. Shut up, brain.
So when these things happen, because I know a lot of my listeners are very much of the high achieving, want to get things done, do want the business going, and are moms themselves. When they get those ideas as they're trying to be with their family, what is something that you suggest that maybe they do or don't do? Like, because again, we're about a decluttering podcast here, whatever. What are things that they need to let go of in order to be more present with the family?
I would say have a list on hand. My project management tool is Notion. And it doesn't matter whatever. You can use the Notes app on your phone. It doesn't really matter. I have a list. It's called Brain Farts, and I have it on speed dial on my phone. So whenever I am in this situation where you're not in business mode, but your head suddenly switches into business mode, and I get an idea for whether it's like a piece of content, a podcast, a video, or some profound like new business model that I've just invented, I'll write it down. Just write it down and come back to it later. Park it. You don't need to go into the nitty-gritty right away. Just accept the fact that you are an entrepreneur and your brain is wired differently, and that's wonderful because you're full of all these good ideas. Just not now, brain. Park them somewhere physically where you don't sit down later at your computer and go, didn't I have this like amazing idea? I wonder what it was. You know what it was because you wrote it down and you got it out of your head so you could stay present with your kids. So that's like the one part of it. You asked the second part of the question. I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry.
I was like, crap, I hope she's not going to ask me, because I'm like, I don't remember what that was, because my brain just went into, see, again, the whole brain, like how as you're doing something, is how I write things down. Listeners, I know you can't see, but I'm pointing to the whiteboard or wipe erase board behind me. I've actually used that so many times to just those ideas that come in, and the moments that it's like, okay, I don't know what this means. I don't know what this can look like. So I write it down, and then it just becomes an entire whiteboard of that. And then I take a picture and I wipe it off, and I have the photo. So there's never a time where I don't have the idea. And then all of a sudden later on, when I'm doing something else and I write the same thought down, because I may not have acted on it right then and there, because half the time I don't act on all of my thoughts, because if you go back to, I forget what episode it is, but we're talking about human design. I have an open head. I have, I absorb everyone else's idea. So I got to figure out, is this my idea? Is this an idea for me to even, do something with? So I write it down. But I know when my ideas come up again and again, I'm like, okay, now that actually might be my idea. And that's when I start doing something with it. But I don't do something with the idea right then and there. And that's my thing. I have paper, like literally as we're recording this podcast, I have a paper that I'll be writing little notes as, Ayla and I talk. But the biggest thing is, we were talking about, is it's getting it out of your head so you can be more present. And that goes with everything. And it goes opposite. Like if you are doing business and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I forgot to, schedule my children's dentist appointment or whatever. Write it down, because again, we are not supposed to remember these things. Our brain is not a storage unit. It is a processing unit. So
absolutely.
When it comes to business, for the ladies that you help and for the moms and stuff like that, what do you find? Like, do they schedule their day like, on Mondays I'm doing this, Tuesdays I'm doing that? Or is it, I'm just going to throw in an hour somewhere in this week because I know I've got my kids' school, I've got to go, their extracurricular activities, we've got appointments. Is it kind of I'm going to see where my spots are, and then that's my business time?
That's an interesting question you ask, Heather, because the answer is it depends. And this is really what I work with my clients, is build a business based on you, because even between the two of us, our brains, like, even though we're pretty much the same person, we still are wired quite differently. Um, and I was just thinking about this while we were talking about when the idea comes up and you want to park it somewhere. I write it down in full sentences. You write a thought down, because you're more kinesthetically. So you like to do something, you write a thought down, and then it's sort of gone. I need to write a full sentence. That's the only way I can get it out of my head. But there are also people who are more auditory or more visually. So they will maybe need to leave it like a little voice note to themselves, or say it to Siri, like, Siri, remind me later that XYZ. That would work better for them. And the same goes for what you're now asking, is like how to schedule your week. Well, it depends on who you are and where you are in life. And if you have a small baby, it might not be feasible to say Mondays are for content creation and Tuesdays are for teaching clients or something like that. That's how I have divided up my weeks. I have coaching call days, I have podcast recording days. I have a morning full of overflow. So that's, for me, that's where need to make a dentist appointment, that goes into the overflow bucket, which I do on Friday mornings. But if you have a tiny baby at home and you only have like hours here and hours there, and the rest all revolves around your baby, that system might not work. Because if your baby is feeling like colicky on a Tuesday, then you're missing your entire podcast recording day and you're falling behind on your own schedule, etc. So how to divide up your time when you're in business and you have little kids completely depends on the age of your kid, the season that you are in personally, physically, the season we are in globally, or at least hemispherically, whether it's a winter or a summer, if it's a kid's vacation, a kid's holiday from school, yes or no. And that's what I really if just know,
listeners, being a mompreneur, these are all the thoughts going in your head, I guarantee you, because you're like, oh wait, okay, so now I've got to think about, okay, they're going to be off, like up here in Canada, all the kids are going to be off in a week and a half, so like a March break, we call it March break, spring break, whatever. So again, it's the brain of, oh, okay, so my daughter wants to do a volleyball camp. Well, that requires, is she gonna be with me or is she gonna be with dad? Is he gonna be driving her? Well, no, he probably can't, because he does the 7 to 4. Well, then, and her volleyball is from 9 to 4. And so I'm like, oh crap, that means that I'm probably gonna be the one driving. That means, I've got to rearrange my thing. So it's so funny that as you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's literally going through my brain as, the day of recording this. And we're at the beginning of March, we're recording this, but it's such a thing where I'm like, okay, no, I know for me, I've got to write down exactly what do I need? I need Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. because that's her start time and end time. Well, are we going to have somebody that's going to help me? Because that's my thing. It's like, am I doing it all by myself? I hope not. Say that. I hope not.
Nice.
Where her volleyball camp is, it's about 45 minutes away. That takes into an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of my time each day. So now I have to plan my day. So for me, instead of saying, I got to do all of these things, I now know I have to reduce the things I'm going to be doing that week. So if I have podcast recordings, I want to make sure that they're in between those times or after when we get home, which is actually what I've done anyways, because I don't have any podcast recording until 5 p.m. on the days that I usually have the kids. But what is something that if they're brand new, they have a little bit older kid, so they don't have the baby, so they don't have to worry about, in between feeding times. What is something they're kind of brand new in the online space, but they've kind of dipped their toe here and there. What is something that you would suggest for them to stay organized while they're trying to test out the waters, or while they're trying to do this thing online that, you know, everyone's doing, kind of thing?
Yeah, two things actually. Both equally important. I think maybe the first one a bit more. Have a vision. Have like a vision. I'm also saying have a vision and have a planning. But first of all, have a vision. Where do you want to go? Like long term. I'm talking 5 years, 10 years, 40 years, you know? Where is it you want to go? And from there on out, schedule what you want to do. Schedule what you need to do, because that's going to keep you focused. In the day-to-day life, every day is going to be overwhelming because there's always a laundry load and there's always the volleyball tournament, and you know, it's stuff like that. So always try to look ahead at why you're doing what you're doing, because that's going to help you so much in choosing what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, it's so easy that you have that 1 hour where you're like, oh, cool, I'm completely kidless right now. This is my power hour where I can really do something that moves the needle. Let me just check my email first. And then your hour's gone. You know,
Yep.
Oh, let me just see what everyone else is doing on Instagram. Let me get some inspiration for my own content. You're lost. So
Yep.
that's the first thing, is like have your vision, and from there on out, make a planning with we have one of those big ass calendars where you can block off, like the summer holiday here in France is 2 months. We block it off. So I know this is not a good time frame for me to say, oh, I'm going to be developing a completely new program, you know, something like that.
Having like this
it's just not going to happen.
You're gonna have, yeah.
Exactly. And from there, you're going to sort of deduct what time you do have and what you need to do in that time frame. And that's also where like the second part comes in. You need to do a time audit, because we are, all of us, overestimating so much what we can do in a day. And you know what, to keep things hopeful, let's quote Tony Robbins, who always says that we overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in a decade. So, you know, there's that, and that's nice. But in general, like female entrepreneurs with little kids, we don't have a lot of hours to work on the business. So make sure that you're aware of that and use it in your planning, and don't go sitting around thinking, oh, I'm going to be doing an entire day of this and that, and then realizing at the end that you only actually had 3 or 4 hours to really work on it.
Yeah.
So that's,
but you gave yourself, like in your head, you're like, oh, I've got a whole day, which is like, you know, 8 hours. Cool. Yep. But then really you're realistically only had 3, because in between you got, you know, the kids came in, you needed to make snacks or lunch or this or whatever. And that's, I think, where also the idea, I forget which law it is, but it's okay, if I think it's this particular task is going to take me 3 hours, I'm going to take 3 hours. But that exact task, I tell myself, you only have 1 hour to finish this.
Parkinson's law.
There we go. I knew once I said it, it was going to be, but, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I remember back when I first started. So at the place that we were in the basement apartment, and we tried, like, we were in a valley, we were in like the boonies, we were like, it was literally a hamlet. And the internet, like, we found out didn't work very well. So I just said, screw it. I'm not paying like almost $150 a month for something that keeps buffering. So we had no internet at the house for almost 3 years. In those 3 years is when I was really trying to get my online business. You know how hard it is to get an online business up and going when you don't have internet? Yeah. However, I got creative, because that's the other part of being an entrepreneur, is getting creative.
Absolutely.
So when I would drop the kids off at school, and of course Dad and I had like a different schedule than we do now, but when I would drop the kids off at school, I would go straight to either a coffee shop or the library, and I would use their internet. And I knew that those places closed at a certain time, or I only had a certain amount of time before I had to go pick up the kids.
Yeah.
So everything I did was very much compressed. And I was impressed. Like, looking back, I'm like, I look at it and going, how did I do what I did in the time that I did? Because if I had to do that now we're in a house, top floor, we've got a internet, we're great. But my brain goes, how did I do that? Because I knew I only had the certain amount of time for the internet. And when I got home, I just did anything that had to do, whether it was reading, whether it was like writing down notes or getting stuff down, anything that obviously didn't require internet. But with that, when we say, okay, take the time, do whatever, what is something like, if we're saying like the time audit and we're saying, okay, this is how much time I actually spend on my emails. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you say, like you give the option of, okay, check emails once a day for this amount of time? Like, do you like tell the clients or tell anyone that you've helped, like time yourself, like actually put a timer? Mm-hmm. And then how do you feel that that helps them stay on task? And then being the mom, what if they get an interruption?
Well, the time audit is mostly reflection, not, weirdly enough, not really something to base your planning on.
Okay.
It's mostly a reflection to see how often you context switch, how long tasks really take you, how much time you are actually spending in the kitchen. That's one of mine. I always think, oh, I'm just going to quickly make a fresh dinner for everyone. And then I'm in the kitchen for an hour and a half. I'm like, I thought I was going to do this in like 20 minutes. So this is something that you're going to do a time audit and then afterwards reflect on what you actually did. So no judging in the moment. No. Afterwards, you're going to go look at it and say, oh, wait, but my time is completely splintered. I thought I was going to work on my content, but instead, after 15 minutes, I opened my email. I did my email for 10 minutes and then went back to write content. But then I realized I needed B-roll. So I started filming B-roll. And that's how you usually end up figuring out, oh, wait a minute, I'm not optimizing my time as I can. From there on out, you're going to plan it for yourself. And it like all my answers are going to be, it depends.
Because you have
because you have like the morning persons and the evening persons. So if I'm now going to say you're going to do your emails in the evenings, like that's not working. If you're a creative genius comes online in the evenings, then that's where you're going to be writing your content. And if you're groggy in the mornings, that's perfect for emails. I'm a morning person, but not too early in the morning. So my creative time is really between like 9 and 12 in the morning. You will not catch me doing email within that time frame because that's just a waste of my time. But at like 3, 4 in the afternoon, I usually get a bit like, it's nearly time to pick up the kids. I also still want to do something. That's a great time to get into your email. And how often, like, do you do it daily or twice a week or something? It depends on your business and how big you are and how much email you get. I don't get that much important emails. Like I get a bunch of newsletters. Doesn't really matter when I read those. My VA knows when and where to reach me outside of my email. So more pressing matters come in through another channel. I can easily ignore my email for a few days. It doesn't really matter,
I can easily say, nah, forget it. That little red square or circle can stay there for a while. Well, and that's the thing. So for me, my emails, I have like parts of the day that are my, as you were saying, like I've got more energy. My creative part of me is during this time of the day, where mine is, okay, up until about that, 3-ish o'clock, sometimes a little earlier, depending on my mood and what time of the month it is. I will take my emails and do it then because I know that my brain's like, okay, you're done. We're done. Let's just do something instead of just scrolling on the internet or anything like that. Let's do our email. So it's still productive, but it's not something that I'm going to feel guilty about later that, I probably should have done this instead, because a lot of my emails lately, especially are, some have podcast requests that people want to be a guest on and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I'll go through those because again, that's productive for me, but I'm not doing it at a time where I'm like, I know this is the time that I am most alert, most creative. And I'm trying to do email, like you said, like don't use that time for those things. But again, like you said, it depends on the person, because there are some people that are definitely not morning people. Like, don't you even start talking to me until I've had, lunch, breakfast, and
11
10
C's,
cups of coffee type thing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the time that they do scroll their email, because that's things that, like you said, you get newsletters, you get this, whatever, or they're just scrolling on, social media to get any notifications or messages they have there. So it's just a matter of the person you trying to figure out, and that's where the time audit is. I think is also an added there is on the side of it, am I energized or am I drained?
Yep.
Like, I think that's another key tip to do when you're doing the time audit is, did this make me happy, energized, wherever? Like me doing podcast episodes, that's why I do them later on in the day, is because for me, they're energizing. So when I know that I'm like, okay, I don't really want to do something, but I know I have a podcast episode, and I'm like, okay, cool. I know I'm energized when I'm talking to somebody. So with that, with the energy draining and stuff like that, do you also notice, especially being female, that during the, certain times of the month that we're more energized, let alone not energized and don't want to do a darn thing? What do you do in those situations?
Well, I was just, you mentioned podcast requests in your email.
Yep.
And the thing that I wrote down with that is boundaries and expectations, because yes, those are great emails to get. Those are also great emails to put behind a filter and only go into the designated inbox where they get into once a month. If people get an auto reply saying, hey, I'm busy, I'm going to be looking at these requests once a month. So you know what? I'm going to be following up with you within a month. So don't be scared if you don't get a reaction for 2 weeks. That's just how I work. It's your business. You're allowed to set boundaries like that, as long as you're communicating them to whoever is emailing you. So I have a Notion planner for all the tasks and many recurring tasks. And I actually label them for which menstrual phase they're good. So in this case, reviewing podcast requests is a perfect task to be doing in your luteal phase, because it doesn't require any creative brain power, any strategic thinking. It's just looking at the requests and saying, hey, does this work for me? Does it work for my podcast, etc., etc. It's a very nice luteal phase task. So luteal phase is the 10-ish days before you get your period, where you're turning more inward. Your energy is just dropping a bit, and you might not want to be doing all kinds of extroverted type of things. So you label it and you come back to it later, and then everyone's happy, because the person who sent you the request also had an auto reply from you saying, I am going to get back to you, just not now, maybe.
So, and that's a good thing to talk about too, is the boundaries, like you were saying, that's setting a boundary. And it's also a good thing to set a boundary with your family as well. Like, I know with my kids, when I'm recording a podcast episode, I know it's so hard for them to do this, but I tell them, I need you to stay in your room. And at 14 and almost 18, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
But
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. I was going to do that anyways. I only come out for food anyways, and to go to the washroom. That's just something. But my kids are older. So when the listeners have the younger kids, how do you, because I don't remember how I did it when my kids were younger. No, it wasn't even that far away. Like I said, they're only 14 and 18, but I'm like, what did I do when they were 6 and 9, or 4 and 8 or whatever? It was like, what did I do? So what are some things that you can, that they can do, the listeners can do if they have the younger kids, putting that boundary when they know they're like, I need to actually work on this. I need to bring in money for the business, because you don't have a business unless you're bringing in the money. Yeah. But how do you explain that to the family?
Well, by communicating clearly. I love that I tripped over the word communicating. That's communicating for you.
At least it wasn't clearly.
Yeah. It's just explaining to them that you're going to be doing something now, and if possible, put up a physical boundary. My office has a door. When the door's closed, it's closed. You don't barge in here when it's closed. But then you have to be strict with it, because that also means that if you're doing something like email, you need to open the door, because otherwise they're just going to see the closed door and like, I'm just going to try it, because sometimes it's a yes when I open the door and sometimes it's a no. For me, it's when the door is closed, it's a hard no. Same for my husband. We both have businesses. We both work from home, and he also closes the doors whenever he's in an important meeting. Like it's very clear. But I know that we're in a luxury position since we live in an actual castle, so we all have like
our own castle, ladies and gentlemen.
We all have doors to close. So many doors. You can make it very easy by putting up like a little sign that's red or green. When it's red, it means no disturbing mommy right now, and when it's green, it's okay. Maybe if they're a little bit older, throw in an orange and like only disturb if it's a real emergency. When my youngest, she's 3, she would not understand orange. She can do red and green, but orange is like, she cannot decide yet whether it's an emergency or not.
She's like a yes or no, black or white, like tell me that I can or that I can't. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then talk about it, make sure that they understand, to some extent, understand what you're doing. Like for me, it's really clear right now. If someone were to come in, they would see you on my screen. They'd see a camera, they'd see a light and a microphone, and they'd be like, oh, I understand that this is a recording that cannot be disturbed. Same goes for client calls. It's visibly easy to see what you're doing. But if you're creating content, for example, it's not that easy to see, because you're just typing and they don't know if you're typing like a random email, or like if you're on WhatsApp on your computer, or if you're like in the middle of a chapter of your new book or something. So something physical really helps, especially with the kids, like the color stuff, for example. It's just, and try to explain to them when it's red, it's because I'm really focused on something, I'm really concentrating, and I don't want to lose my train of thought. So that's a concept that they can grasp,
Yep. And then, okay, so we've got the boundaries, we've got the, the family's on board, you're doing your thing, you're done your thing. And when you have a family, and when you're the entrepreneur, and again, most of my listeners are female entrepreneurs, they're go-getters and stuff like that. So they want to keep working. So like, okay, kids are in bed, now I want to work again. This is whatever, I want to work again. This, I want to work again. Do you find that that's actually more of a detriment to not have the boundaries with yourself when it comes to work and closing things down so that you can actually have your me time?
You're gonna hate me, but it depends. It depends on your phase again.
So like when I'm episode is it depends. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it depends with Ayla and Hartog. It depends for me, it depends on my phase. When I'm in my follicular phase, so this is the phase between your menstruation and your ovulation, you're usually way more energized. I could work all day and then eat dinner, put the kids to bed, and then work all evening and feel nothing of it the next day. When I do that in my luteal phase, the next day I'm dead. Like that's not happening. And the same goes for like when it's winter and it's dark and it's cold. I'm not going to work in the evenings. I want to be cozy with a cup of tea and a blanket. And that's something that you need to learn about yourself, is your energetic rhythms. When can you do this and when can't you do this? I would say like in the base, don't plan on it. If I plan everything according to my cycle, but I don't plan the evenings in my follicular phase, because if I'm not feeling that great that month, whatever else is going on, maybe I'm just recovering from a cold or something, I can be in my follicular phase, but still want to have my rest in the evenings. So I'm not planning it. Anything I do in the evenings is just like a nice to have. Again, this goes because my chronotype is that I'm active in the morning. If you're active in the evenings, then this would work like the other way around. But don't plan on it. Accept it if it's a nice to have. This week, my husband is in Holland for work. I'm here in France. I've worked all evenings because there's no one here having any expectations about me joining in to watch a rerun of Dexter. It's yep. I can do whatever I please. Next week is my follicular phase, but I'm going to be hanging out with him in the evenings because it's nice that he's back, So don't plan, and then it's nice if it works out like that.
So what I'm also hearing is be flexible. One of the key things is be flexible. And that's what entrepreneurship really is. It's being flexible, because as much as we, put those big launches out, we do that, whatever, it's the flexibility of, well, what if tech goes wrong? Well, you got to deal with the tech. Oh, well, what if this email didn't go out, which is, again, still tech or whatever, but you've got to be flexible, because entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of ups and downs.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, we're going to do the 4-pillar finish, because I know this is one of those things that a lot of people, it's great that we've been talking about this, the phases that we literally go through as women, how we have younger kids, older kids, etc. But they need something, because a lot of my listeners are very much go-getters, they're high achievers. They're like, okay, I get it, but what now? So do you have quick tips for them to take away if they take nothing else of this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
A tip for their mind, their body, their soul, and their home while they're trying to build a business as a mom, as a parent, as, a partner and stuff like that. What kind of tips do you have for our listeners?
Yeah. So for the mind, I would say stop carrying shit around that doesn't serve you anymore. Because it's so easy to take what you saw in your youth, what the people from your hometown used to think of you, any cultural, like whatever is expected of women, or just stop carrying around shit that doesn't serve you. Focus on who you want to be, focus on where you want to go, focus on the identity that you want to have, and just dump the rest. Like if there's something that's bugging you, stop, just throw it away. Like, okay, cool. For me, for example, you want to make a fresh dinner every evening. This is something for me. My husband is very much the breadwinner. He's an important guy. His office smells of rich mahogany, that type. Yep. And I feel that it's my wifely duties to prepare a nice and healthy fuel meal in the evening. And so every day I find myself in the kitchen for an hour and a half. And I'm like, well, fuck that. I don't want to, that did serve me in the past. I like taking care of him. I appreciate that he's taking care of me and our family in the way that he is. But I want to have more time to work on my own business. And this whole cultural thing, it's not serving me anymore. So I'm going to find a workaround and just throw it away. Like the whole thought, I'm going to throw away. Not
the food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's very important for the mind. For the soul, sorry, I'm throwing off your sequence. It's my body.
Okay. Don't worry, it will all be in order. It will all be good.
Perfect. For the soul, start believing in everything and see where it gets you. For me, I was raised very much an atheist. Like my father had a background in the church, which he broke free of, and he was anything that just reeked of believing in anything was ridiculed at home, and like the most atheists there are.
Yep.
And I've always searched for something. I tried to convert myself to so many religions. Nothing really stuck. I would now call myself spiritual. I love astrology. I love human design. I love believing that we have soul contracts. If I would have said, no, that's not real. Oh, it's just planets. Oh, it's whatever the time and date you were born. Like, how is that going to affect the rest of your life? If I would have adopted that kind of mindset, I would have known so much less about myself. I just said, from now on out, I'm going to believe in everything and see where it gets me. And sometimes I get like a tarot reading and I'm like, no, does not ring a bell,
This doesn't feel, doesn't work.
And sometimes I look at my astrology and I'm like, that's profound, So
like, oh my goodness.
yes. And when I started really tapping into my astrology and my human design, things opened up for me because it's another way of working with your own wiring instead of against your own wiring, where you can take a strategy from someone else and then just sort of remake it into something that fits you.
Yep.
And that works so much better. So just start believing in everything and see where it gets you on a soul level. Go with it.
Beautiful. Love that. Love that.
For the body, don't ignore the impact that your body has on your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is so important for women specifically. I don't even know if this applies to men, because we are so in our head, like 99% of the time, with the whole mental load and the kids and the business and the this and the that. We sort of forget that we have like an entire body attached to that brain that wants to do things. And you only notice it when something is already off, that your body is holding you back.
Yep, like a pain or ailment of some sort. Yes. Yep.
Exactly.
That's the body screaming at you.
Yeah, exactly. I always ridicule my husband because from time to time he gets like an inflamed toe or something, like something very
so
manly.
random. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he sits around complaining for 5 days, like, oh my God, my toe is killing me. And it always amazes me that something so tiny as a toe, for example, can drain him that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then here are women who are on like a monthly basis going through all the hormones and all the discomforts that come with that. And for me, for example, for nearly 7 years, I've been trying to lose weight after the first pregnancy. Like it's not coming off. This is something that's, your body is doing so many things, and it can really hold you back if you're not paying attention to it and just like honoring the fact that you even have a body. Like it's doing stuff to keep your brain running, Head.
Like, hi, you've got the rest of your entire body that you have to pay attention to. Are you sitting straight? Are you, breathing properly? Nice deep breaths as opposed to the short, quick, stressful ones. So yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely. Don't ignore the impact your body has on your daily life. And for home, I don't know if you're gonna like this answer, Heather. You already
this part out. No.
You already know me, so you know that I have like 5 junk drawers.
Yes.
Really, my home is messy, and I'm like, my home is messy. That's it. End of sentence. So the tip that I have is, don't be too hard on yourself. You don't live in a museum.
Yep.
That's really something. It's also a bit connected to the mind, because it's also an outside expectation that we have that our home should be tidy. And it's like a cultural thing. Maybe it's a gender thing. Women should be the ones tidying the house,
Mm-hmm.
So drop that shit because you don't need it anymore. And then just realize that you live in a house. You live there with kids. Things are gonna get used. Things are maybe not gonna get tidied up right away. If it's in your focused hours on a day, don't waste those hours on cleaning up
putting away the dishes or putting a load of laundry away.
Exactly. Yeah. Save that for a time when the energy is right for it. And in the meantime, just, you don't live in a museum. Let it go for a sec,
Yep. Beautiful. I love that. And it really is one of those things where you've got to look at, your house is not meant to be a museum, like you said. It is meant to be lived in with the family you're trying to also build a business around. So there's going to be, just like in a business, there's going to be times where, those emails add up.
Yep.
You're not going to put yourself going, I can't believe I have 20 emails I have to read. You can't believe it. Yeah. It's the same with your home. Your home needs to be lived in. If it's not lived in, then chances are there's something else that's not being lived for as well, like your business. If you're so concentrated on your house and how perfect it has to be, and how, when anyone comes over, like, I have to have the floor swept, you're not concentrating on your business because you're so you're trying to record a podcast and you're looking over and you're like, oh, wait, that's a load of laundry I needed to do, or the dish is over there, as opposed to actually being in the conversation with the person you're having the podcast or in the conversation with the client. That is such a huge thing. Now, mind you, obviously, if you need to declutter it, you know where to go, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
But for now, it's putting that, it's okay that you have a house that's lived in. You are somebody who is living as opposed to just doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to realize that consciously from time to time.
Yes. All right, Ayla, we are at the end, and I just want to know, what is one major, big, little, whatever tip that you have for our listeners listening, whether it's about the business, about being a mom, a partner, doing cooking, whatever it is in your little phase or not. What is one tip that you want to leave them away for today?
Well, it actually applies to everything that you just mentioned, because it is know thyself. The better you know yourself, the better you understand your own body, the thoughts that run around in your head, the better you understand where it is that you want to go and why it is that you want to go there, like your personal values, everything like that. It's everything like a big domino is going to get so much easier, because you're going to be working with yourself instead of working against yourself. You're going to be able to, because that's what I see a lot, is that women try to grasp anything in order to help them further. So they're relying very much on external strategies. But those are other people's strategies with different lives and different rhythms and different bodies. And the moment you know yourself so well, where it is you're going, why, what, how, you can take any strategy that's out there, look at it, and either go, that's not for me, or go, that is for me, but I need to adjust it so and so it works for me and it works for my business and my life. So my tip is know thyself.
Well, and that's huge too, because when you know yourself and you know what you want, you know how to, do your business and stuff, it's so much easier to declutter the rest, to let go of what isn't that.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I always say that self-knowledge it sounds so unsexy, like, oh, self-knowledge, I already know myself, thank you. But it is true. Like, when you know yourself, you have the most powerful lever there is out there to building a business and a life that is doable, that is sustainable, because it's completely yours. It's adjusted to you. And that's not something that you're going to do this week and you're like, oh, now I know myself and now I have
I know exactly who I am. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Because next year your kids are going to be older and
still learning.
Yeah, exactly. No, but everything's changing. Like, we don't know what's going on in the world, how it's going to change. Your kids are going to grow. Everything is changing. So this is an evolving process. And the better you know yourself, the better you can be flexible, as we already established. Being flexible is so important. And when you know yourself so well, you can really be flexible.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Ayla, for joining us today. And don't worry, listeners, all of her stuff will be in the show notes, including her tips that she gave as well. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.